Biology. The purpose of this video is to give students who missed class or missed part of a lecture, or maybe I was going too fast when I was doing the lecture. In any event, it's giving students access to all of the lecture notes for the section in Chapter 6 on biodiversity. Remember, because you can pause this video, I will be going faster than I actually deliver these lectures in class. I will warn you when I'm moving on to the next slide so you can pause the video in order to finish up what you're doing. All right, here we go. That's a biodiversity, it's genetic diversity, all organisms. Ecosystem diversity includes all the variety of habitats, we can abbreviate diversity, communities, and ecological processes. Species diversity is the number of different species on Earth, which is getting smaller and smaller every day. And genetic diversity is basically all of the DNA that we have in living things on the planet. Moving ahead, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And pay close attention whenever I have this opportunity. Just means you only need to do 2 of these. I always recommend that you pick ones that you didn't already know, so you're learning new information. All right, importance of biodiversity. It is our greatest natural resource. We get food from living things, products out of some of the compounds that come from living things, we even get medicines. Threats, basically us. Humans are doing a bang up job on ecosystems. Altering habitats, altering means changing, hunting species extinction, pollution, introducing foreign species into new environments called invasive species. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, extinction. Extinction is when a species completely disappears. Oh, beg your pardon. There's another type of extinction called geographical extinction. That's when it like disappears from a continent, but maybe it exists elsewhere. Um, Species extinction is when every organism of that species is gone. Endangered species. This is a species whose population is getting very small, and we are very concerned that it may soon become. Habitat alteration is basically what humans do. We develop the land, developing the land meaning changing it into something that suits our needs versus its natural state. We can destroy parts of habitats, and that's called fragmentation. It also makes species more vulnerable because they have less area. There's probably more interactions with humans for those that are left in the surrounding fragments. But habitat alteration or habitat destruction is the primary cause for species extinction and species becoming endangered. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, here we go. Please use this as an opportunity to look back at your notes and to practice with them. What is biodiversity? Answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. It is all of the living things, all the variety of living things we have on the planet. And it is our set the answer to this. Why is biodiversity important? Answer in 5, 3, 2, 1. It is our greatest natural resource. What are 2 things that currently threaten biodiversity? Answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So it's human activity, invasive species, pollution, all of those things in biodiversity. Hunting species to extinction. Biodiversity and pollution. So there are pollutants that literally just kill organisms straight out. There are pollutants that actually harm organisms to the ability where they can't actually reproduce, which of course means that species is going to be in trouble. And then there are types of pollutants that actually don't break down in nature and they don't kill the organism, but they accumulate in their tissues. And that's referred to as biological magnification or bioaccumulation. So DDT is an example of a pollutant that does this. DDT was originally used widespread. We had no idea that it was going to have effects on ecosystems. Super cheap to make. It's very, very effective pesticide. We used it a lot back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So what happened is when it rains, this pesticide, which you spray on crops, would get into waterways. And it wasn't really doing a lot of damage in these waterways because it was always a real low concentration. I'm moving ahead in five, four, three, two, and one. DDT is a problem because it doesn't break down in nature. Organisms can't break it down. Sunlight can't break it down. Temperature variations can't break it down. It just stays there. And once it gets into an organism, primarily a producer, where it will diffuse into their cells from a high concentration to a low concentration, it never leaves the body. So if you have DDT that gets into a plant, and that plant is consumed by an insect or by a small fish, every single DDT molecule that got into those plant cells is then going to move into the fish because it doesn't break down. I hear those words I talked about: biomagnification, bioaccumulation. That's what happened with DDT. So DDT does not break down, and when it gets absorbed into lower levels in the food web, by the time you get to the higher levels in the food web, you have a high concentration of DDT. So when concentrations of toxins increase in organisms at higher trophic levels, in food chains, or in food webs. All right, and the reason why DDT became so big to the United States is we realized it was harming bald eagle populations, and bald eagles are our national bird, our symbol of freedom, and that's not cool if you're living in the United States. So fish eating birds are typically top food chains, which means they're going to be eating things that ate other things, that ate other things, that ate other things, that ate other things. And they are getting all of the DDT from every one of those organisms in that food chain. Moving ahead in five, four, three, two, and one. Here's a good visual representation of how biomagnification works. So we've got these DDT molecules that are just in the water. Remember, they were sprayed on crops, it rained, and some of these molecules got into a waterway. And then producers actually pick these things up. So you might have had just a few in the water, but producers are going to continue. Well, pardon me, they're not doing anything. Things move across membranes, cell membranes, from high concentration to low concentration. So these producers are going to be picking up a whole bunch of these DDT molecules, and they're going to get into these producers' cells. Notice now we're up to a 10,000 concentration. Zooplankton, those are plankton that are animal like. Zoo means animal like. These are things that eat producers. So, because you lose 90% of the energy every time you have a feeding relationship to metabolic heat, these things need to eat a lot of plants. And of course, if the plants had 1,000 concentration and they have to eat a lot of plants, they're going to get a lot more DDT. They're going to get the DDT from every single producer or plant that they consume. Next level, we're now at 100,000 concentration. Small fish eat the zooplankton, and they get every DDT molecule from the producers that got into the zooplankton. And remember, fish need to eat about 10 times as much because, pardon me, yeah, 10 times as much because they're losing 90% of the energy. So they're getting all of the DDT that was in that phytoplankton, and now their concentration is high. Large fish eat the small fish. Now we're up to 1,000,000 concentration. And because large fish need to eat a lot of small fish due to that metabolic heat loss, They're only getting 10% of the energy. They need to eat 10 times as much, and they're getting all of the DDT from the producers, the zooplankton, and the phytoplankton. And of course, by the time we get to the top of the food chain, you've got fish eating birds. They're called birds of prey. They're called raptors. They're getting every single DDT molecule in all of those organisms in that food chain. And again, fish eating birds need to eat 10 times as much food because they're only getting 10% of the energy. And now we've got high concentrations in the eagles. Eagles do not die from having too much DDT in their cells. That's not actually what was harming the population. What was harming the population is the fact that DDT causes eggshells to thin. So when the mama or the papa bird went to sit on the eggs and incubate them, the eggs actually cracked and broke. And of course, that hatchling was never able to survive. So it's not that it was killing the eagles, it was preventing them from being born, and that dramatically decreased their population. And then in the United States, we said, we're not using DDT anymore. Sadly, it is still used in many countries worldwide. I use this as an opportunity to practice a little bit with your notes. What is the most dangerous ways pollution can hurt biodiversity? One of the most dangerous ways. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. It's primarily because there are some toxins that can actually bioaccumulate, and they can harm organisms that are at the end of food chains or the top of food webs. But two things make DDT so dangerous. Answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, DDT, number one, is very, very commonly used. It was super, super cheap, so a lot of people were using it, but it is non-biodegradable. It does not break down naturally. Therefore, it accumulates. When a toxic substance accumulates in the tissues of organisms as it moves up the food chain, we call that biological accumulation or biological magnification. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's actually either one. Bioaccumulation and magnification both kind of mean the same thing. All right, introduced are non-native invasive species. So there are lots of ways that humans brought organisms into ecosystems that did not belong there, do not belong there. Some of these organisms reproduce really fast. Some of them are super, super aggressive. Some of them literally seek out to harm the competitors in the ecosystem. And that, of course, can really jack up the ecosystem. Remember, ECOS stands for ecosystem. Conservation, basically to preserve habitats and to preserve the wildlife that lives within those habitats. And wildlife would also include plants. It's anything that is native to these ecosystems. Strategies, the easiest way is to protect individual species to make sure that they do not become endangered or extinct. Conservation biology goals protect entire ecosystems and individual species. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do we call species that are introduced, reproduce rapidly because their new habitat lacks predators that would control their population? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. This is called invasive species. In order to conserve biodiversity, many wildlife managers focus on managing blank blanks to keep them from becoming extinct. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That would be single species or individual species. Conservation biologists focus on preserving blank blank as well as blank blank. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This would be individual habitats or habitats where you find individual species that are in trouble. So protecting endangered species, preventing them from becoming extinct, and protecting the habitats that they live in. Type of biodiversity that includes inheritance of information carried by the Earth's organisms. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Genes or genetic information is inherited from our parents. Populations of invasive species tend to. Why are invasive species so dangerous? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's because they increase rapidly. They don't have predators, they reproduce fast. Wise management of natural resources, including the preservation of habitats and wildlife, is known as. This actually was part of my biology degree back at Sac State. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's called conservation biology or conservation ecology. By focusing on protecting specific ecosystems, biologists hope to preserve what? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's all about protecting biodiversity. Last question. In a food pyramid, biological magnification results in. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Correct answer is increased amount of toxic substance in the organisms at the highest level. So we're talking predators, we're talking things that are at the high end of the food web or the food chain. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the 6-3 class notes. Please make sure to get these updated and uploaded to Google Classroom or turned into the classroom on time. See you in class.